Stop right there before you spend another nickel. What if one of those ordinary-looking 5-cent coins sitting in your pocket, an old jar, or a forgotten collection, is actually the kind of coin collectors would want to examine very carefully? Today, we're going hunting through 7 Jefferson and Monticello nickels spanning decades of American history, and some of them come with surprisingly serious collector market values. But here's the part that makes this hunt exciting. These coins don't need to look like treasure at first glance. Some may have gray surfaces, brown spots, old-looking layers, or signs of circulation. That's exactly why so many people overlook them. A 5-cent coin can pass through thousands of hands without anyone stopping to check the date, mint mark, design, and condition. And you could be doing the same thing right now. So before you toss that old nickel back into circulation, check it. Look closely at the date. Look for the mint mark. Examine the surfaces. Turn it over and study the details around Monticello, or in one case, a design connected to the historic Lewis and Clark expedition. We're not talking about imaginary treasures or made-up mint mistakes. We're looking at specific standard-issue coins and the characteristics collectors actually examine when determining desirability and value. And the values we're about to reveal range from thousands of dollars to amounts that could make you look twice at every nickel you own. So stay with me until the very end, because the final coins on this list could completely change the way you look at old 5-cent pieces. This is Hidden Coin Millions, and the hunt for hidden treasure starts now. First up, sometimes the coins worth a closer look are not the ones with flashy mint errors or strange markings. Sometimes the real excitement starts with a coin that looks completely ordinary. That is exactly why I want you to take a serious look at this 1952 Monticello 5-cent coin. If you have one sitting in an old jar, drawer, collection, or even mixed in with everyday change, don't dismiss it too quickly. The details on this coin can tell you a lot about where it came from, how it survived, and why collectors may still want examples like it. This coin was struck in 1952, during a fascinating period in American history. The United States was in the middle of the Korean War. Harry S. Truman was president, and America was living through a period of major economic and political change. Millions of Jefferson nickels were being produced for everyday commerce because the 5-cent denomination was an important part of daily American life. On the front, or obverse, you will see Thomas Jefferson facing left. Around his portrait are the inscriptions, "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date, 1952. On the back, Jefferson's famous home, Monticello, takes center stage. The reverse carries Monticello, 5 cents, United States of America, and the motto, E pluribus unum. These inscriptions are not just decoration. They help identify exactly what you are holding. Now look carefully at the mint mark. This 1952 example has no mint mark, which indicates production at the Philadelphia Mint. That detail is important because mint marks help collectors determine where a coin was produced and can make certain issues more interesting depending on rarity, survival, and demand. The standard Jefferson nickel was made from a copper-nickel composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures about 21.2 millimeters across, and is approximately 1.95 millimeters thick. Its edge is plain, without reading. In 1952, Philadelphia produced more than 65 million Jefferson nickels, so this was never an extremely low mintage issue. That means the condition of an individual coin becomes especially important. Collectors inspect the sharpness of Jefferson's portrait, the details around Monticello, the lettering, the date, the surfaces, scratches, discoloration, and overall preservation. Attractive original examples can become harder to find as years pass, especially when old coins have been heavily circulated or improperly cleaned. And this is where the story gets even more interesting. In today's collector market, this 1952 Monticello 5-cent coin can be valued at approximately $17,400, an incredible difference from its original face value of just 5 cents. Its age, history, condition, originality, and collector demand can all influence its value. Certain specimens have attracted impressive attention in the marketplace, and collectors continue searching for well-preserved examples. But remember, not every 1952 nickel will have the same value. Condition matters enormously. If the coin you discover matches the characteristics we're discussing, take a closer look before making any decision. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter, and even an attempt to make an old nickel look better can damage the very characteristics collectors want to preserve. If you believe you have an especially strong example, professional grading may be worthwhile. So before you throw that old nickel back into circulation, check the date, mint mark, surfaces, and condition one more time. You might be holding a piece of American history that deserves far more attention than its 5-cent face value suggests. And don't go anywhere, because the next coin in this collection takes our search for hidden value in an entirely different direction, and you definitely won't want to miss it. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, now let's slow down, because this next nickel has one detail that can completely change how a collector looks at it. We're talking about a 1955 Monticello 5-cent coin with a D mint mark. At first glance, it may look like nothing more than an old, circulated nickel with a gray layer across its surfaces. But when you know what to inspect, even an ordinary-looking coin can become much more interesting. The year 1955 came during a major period of American change. The United States was deep into the post-war era. American families were embracing new technology and consumer products, and the country was moving rapidly toward the modern economy we recognize today. That year, the U.S. Mint continued producing Jefferson nickels for everyday commerce, giving Americans a durable 5-cent coin they could use for everything from small purchases to making change. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson faces left, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1955. Turn it over and you'll see Jefferson's historic home, Monticello, prominently displayed. Around the reverse are Monticello, 5 cents, E Pluribus Unum, and United States of America. The design was created by Felix Schlag and had become one of the most recognizable American coin designs of its era. Now check the mint mark. This example carries a small D beneath Monticello, identifying the Denver Mint. In 1955, Denver struck 464,100 Jefferson nickels, so this was not an ultra-low production issue. That makes condition, preservation, and the individual coin's characteristics especially important to collectors. This standard Jefferson nickel was made from 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures approximately 21.2 millimeters in diameter, is about 1.95 millimeters thick, and has a plain edge. And here's what makes your example worth examining carefully. You described it as circulated, with a gray layer. Circulation normally leaves marks and wear, but collectors still examine the date, mint mark, lettering, Jefferson's portrait, the Monticello details, and especially the preservation of the original surfaces. They also look closely for unusual characteristics. But remember, we are treating this as a standard issue coin, not claiming an error or variety. The survival story is also interesting. estimates that millions of regular 1,955 with D nickels survive, meaning the ordinary circulated examples are not considered rare simply because of their age. However, high-grade survivors become dramatically harder to find. Records a regular 1,955 with D example reaching $920 at auction in MS66+, while a full steps example reached $9,694 in 2019. Now here's the part that could make you look twice at your old coins. A 1955 Monticello 5-cent coin like this can command approximately $16,500 in today's collector market, despite starting out at just 5 cents. Collectors pay close attention to condition, surviving examples, historical importance, and demand. So if you discover one, keep it exactly as you found it. Never clean or damage it. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter, and professional grading may be worthwhile if the coin appears unusually well preserved or has characteristics that deserve expert examination. Remember, gray toning or surface coloration alone does not automatically make a coin rare or valuable. So take another look at those old nickels sitting in your collection. Check the date. Check for the D mint mark. Study the surfaces under good lighting, but handle the coin carefully. Many people unknowingly spend old coins without ever realizing collectors are searching for particular examples. And if you think this nickel was interesting, stay with me, because the next coin brings another old American 5-cent piece into the spotlight, and the details you need to watch for are going to be even more important. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, here's a coin that proves you should never judge an old nickel simply by looking at its age. Our third coin is a 1993 Monticello 5-cent coin with a P mint mark, and yours has that distinctive gray and brown appearance with signs of an older, circulated life. It may not look like a treasure sitting in your hand, but before you dismiss it, take a closer look at the details, because this is exactly where collectors start asking questions. 1993 was a memorable year in America. Bill Clinton had just begun his presidency, the economy was moving through an important transition, and American life was rapidly entering the digital age. While all of that was happening, the U.S. Mint was still producing Jefferson nickels by the hundreds of millions for ordinary Americans to spend every day. The coin itself carries the classic design created by Felix Schlag. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson faces left, with the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1993. The P mint mark appears beneath the date, identifying the Philadelphia Mint. On the reverse, Jefferson's home, Monticello, is centered prominently, surrounded by Monticello, 5 cents, E pluribus unum, and United States of America. And there's something important about this particular date. Philadelphia struck approximately 412 million 1993 Jefferson nickels. So this was absolutely a standard issue coin, not a coin we should automatically call rare simply because of its age or appearance. In fact, PCGS notes that the issue is fairly easy to find in circulation, while truly high-grade survivors become much more difficult to locate. This nickel has the standard Jefferson nickel composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures about 21.2 millimeters in diameter, is approximately 1.95 millimeters thick, and has a plain edge. Now look at those gray and brown spots carefully. Surface color alone does not prove rarity or value. Collectors inspect the date, the P mint mark, Jefferson's portrait, the lettering, the Monticello building, and especially the condition of the original surfaces. They also pay close attention to wear, scratches, cleaning, and whether important design details remain sharp. And this is where the story gets interesting. Certain high-grade 1993 P nickels have brought impressive prices at auction. Records an auction result of $6,900 for an S67 example. That tells you something important. With this issue, preservation and grade can make an enormous difference. Now here's the part that could make you look twice at your old coins. A 1993 Monticello 5-cent coin like this can command approximately $9,200 in today's collector market, despite starting out at just 5 cents. Collectors pay close attention to condition, surviving examples, historical importance, and demand. So if you discover one, keep it exactly as you found it. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Cleaning can leave scratches, remove natural surface characteristics, and potentially hurt collector appeal. If you believe your example has exceptional preservation or deserves closer examination, professional grading may be worthwhile. So check those old nickels again. Look beneath the date. Find that P. Study the surfaces. Turn it over and inspect Monticello. You never know which forgotten coin might deserve a second look. And remember, this is only coin number 3. The hunt is far from over, and the next old Monticello nickel could give you another reason to search through every forgotten coin in your collection. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, now we've reached a coin that sits at a fascinating turning point in American coin history. Take a close look at this 2003 Monticello 5-cent coin with the P mint mark. You described it with a black and brown layer and very fine condition. And there's a reason this particular date deserves your attention. It was the final year of the classic Jefferson nickel design that paired Jefferson's familiar profile with the traditional view of Monticello before the major design changes of 2004. Think about what America looked like in 2003. The country was entering a new century. Technology was rapidly changing everyday life, and the United States was preparing for the bicentennial celebration of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The Mint was still producing the familiar Jefferson nickel for everyday commerce, but major changes were already coming. In fact, the 2003 nickel became the last regular issue to carry this classic combination of Jefferson's left-facing portrait and Monticello on the reverse. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson faces left. Around him are the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 2003. Just below the date is the letter P, identifying the Philadelphia Mint. On the reverse, Jefferson's historic Virginia home, Monticello, dominates the design, with Monticello, 5 cents, E pluribus unum, and United States of America surrounding it. The design was created by Felix Schlag and had been a familiar part of American coinage since 1938. This is a standard copper-nickel Jefferson nickel made from 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures 21.2 millimeters across, is approximately 1.95 millimeters thick, and has a plain edge. Philadelphia produced 840,000 business strike examples in 2003. And here's the part collectors need to understand. The 2003 P nickel is not automatically rare just because it is the final year of the classic design. Describes the issue as broadly available with an estimated hundreds of millions surviving. What becomes much more interesting is exceptional preservation. Collectors inspect the portrait first, then the date and P mint mark, the lettering, the fields, and especially the steps of Monticello. Those steps can be crucial when collectors are evaluating full steps examples. Your black and brown surface layer should also be examined carefully. Color alone does not prove a rare variety or mint error. Collectors want to know whether the surfaces are original, whether there are scratches or cleaning marks, and how much detail remains. That's why very fine preservation can make an otherwise ordinary-looking coin worth a closer inspection. Now comes the number that makes this 2003 Monticello 5-cent coin worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 5 cents, it can reach approximately $2,800 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. And remember, real auction results can vary dramatically with grade and exact characteristics. Records a $1,058 auction result for a 2003 P full steps example, graded MS68, showing how dramatically exceptional condition can separate a special specimen from an ordinary circulated nickel. So if you find a 2003 nickel with a P, don't casually throw it back into circulation. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Put it somewhere safe, handle it by the edges, and if the condition appears unusually strong, professional grading may be worthwhile. And now we're getting very close to the final coin in this hunt. The next one could be the coin that makes you want to search every old nickel you own all over again. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, and now we've reached the final coin in this hunt. And this one takes us all the way back to 1940. Imagine holding a 5-cent coin that was made before America entered World War II, when Jefferson nickels was still a relatively young design. This 1940 Monticello 5-cent coin has no mint mark, a gray-dotted appearance, and most importantly, you described it as uncirculated. That last detail is where collectors start paying very close attention. 1940 was a pivotal year in America. World War II was already raging overseas, even though the United States had not yet entered the conflict. Franklin D. Roosevelt was president, and American industry was beginning to prepare for a changing world. At the U.S. Mint, Jefferson nickels continued to be produced for everyday commerce, carrying a design that had first appeared just 2 years earlier. Turn the coin over in your hand and start with the obverse. Thomas Jefferson faces left, with Liberty, in God We Trust, and the date 1940 surrounding his portrait. On the reverse is Jefferson's Virginia home, Monticello. You'll see Monticello, 5 cents, E pluribus unum, and United States of America. The design was created by Felix Schlag and became one of the longest-running designs in American coinage. There is no mint mark on this example, which means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1940, Philadelphia produced roughly 176 million Jefferson nickels, so this was not a low mintage issue. That is an important distinction. We are treating this as a standard issue coin, not claiming a rare error or variety. The real attraction here is the preservation you described. The standard 1940 Jefferson nickel was made from 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures 21.2 millimeters across, is approximately 1.95 millimeters thick, and has a plain edge. Now look closely at those gray dots and the overall surfaces. Collectors don't simply ask whether an old coin looks shiny. They inspect the portrait, date, lettering, Monticello, the fields, contact marks, and especially the steps beneath Monticello. On an uncirculated example, original surfaces and the absence of cleaning become extremely important. The survival numbers tell an interesting story. Estimates about 88 million to 1940 nickels survive in all grades, but estimates drop to around 80,000 examples at grade 60 or better, and about 70,000 at 65 or better. So while the date itself is common, truly well-preserved coins are a much smaller group. Auction history shows just how much condition can matter. A standard 1940 example graded MS-68 has an auction record of $558, while an MS-68 full steps example reached $6,463 at heritage auctions. Now comes the number that makes this 1940 Monticello 5-cent coin worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 5 cents, it can reach approximately $19,700 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember, a quoted market value is not a guarantee that every 1940 nickel is worth that amount. Actual value can depend heavily on grade, authentication, surface quality, strike, and collector demand. That is why professional grading may be worthwhile for an unusually well-preserved example. So if you have a 1940 nickel sitting quietly in an old collection, don't spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Hold it carefully by the edges, inspect both sides under good lighting, and pay particular attention to the Monticello steps and overall preservation. And that brings us to the end of this 5-coin hunt. If this video made you look differently at the nickels sitting around your home, check your collection again. You could be overlooking something interesting simply because you never knew what details to look for. If you enjoyed the hunt, like this video, subscribe to Hidden Coin Millions, and share it with another collector who loves searching for overlooked American coins. Keep checking those old nickels, because the next valuable find could be hiding in plain sight. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, here we are at coin number 6, and this one takes us into a completely different era of the Jefferson nickel. Take a close look at this 1973 Monticello 5-cent coin with no mint mark. You described brown spots on the reverse and an almost uncirculated condition, and that combination makes this coin worth slowing down for. It may look like an ordinary old nickel, but the details, and especially the preservation, are what collectors want to investigate. 1973 was an important year in America. The country was dealing with rising inflation. The Vietnam War was still shaping national life, and American society was going through major economic and cultural changes. At the U.S. Mint, however, the mission remained simple: produce dependable 5-cent coins for everyday commerce. The Jefferson nickel had already been familiar to Americans for more than 3 decades. On the obverse, Thomas Jefferson faces left. Around him are the inscriptions "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date 1973. There is no mint mark on this example, identifying Philadelphia production. On the reverse, Jefferson's historic home, Monticello, appears in the center. Around it are Monticello, 5 cents, A Pluribus Unum, and United States of America. The classic design was created by Felix Schlag. And here's an important fact. Philadelphia struck 384th, 396,000 Jefferson nickels, dated 1973. So the date itself was not a low mintage issue, and we are treating this strictly as a standard issue coin, not a rare error or unusual variety. What makes your example more interesting is the condition you described. Notes that ordinary examples can still be found in circulation, while coins reaching very high grades become considerably harder to find. The coin has the standard Jefferson nickel composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures approximately 21.2 millimeters across, is about 1.95 millimeters thick, and has a plain edge. Now turn your attention to those brown spots on the reverse. Don't automatically assume that color means rarity. Collectors inspect the entire surface first. They look at the date, the absence of a mint mark, Jefferson's portrait, the lettering, the fields, and especially the sharpness of Monticello and its steps. They also check for scratches, harsh cleaning, unnatural surface damage, and signs of circulation. That almost uncirculated condition is particularly important. With a coin produced in such a large quantity, the real challenge is finding examples that have survived with strong original surfaces and minimal wear. Estimates that extremely high-grade examples become scarce, particularly when the important full steps detail is present. Auction history shows why condition deserves attention. Lists an auction record of $2,300 for a 1973 Philadelphia nickel-graded MS-66. That doesn't mean every coin from this date is worth thousands, but it demonstrates how dramatically exceptional preservation can separate a high-grade specimen from an ordinary circulated nickel. Now comes the number that makes this 1973 Monticello 5-cent coin worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 5 cents, it can reach approximately $14,600 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. If the coin really appears almost uncirculated and the details remain unusually sharp, professional grading may be worthwhile. And remember, the quoted market value is not a guarantee for every 1973 nickel. Actual selling prices depend on grade, authentication, surface quality, strike, and collector demand. So check your old nickels one more time. Look for 1973, confirm that there is no mint mark, turn the coin over, and study those Monticello details under good lighting. Handle it by the edges and protect the original surfaces. After 6 coins, one thing should be clear: valuable-looking opportunities aren't always obvious at first glance. Some coins are hiding in collections simply because their owners never took the time to inspect them carefully. Keep searching, keep learning what collectors look for, and never assume an old nickel is worthless just because it looks ordinary. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Next up, this next coin is where American history suddenly becomes much more visible on a 5-cent piece. Take a close look at this 2004 Lewis and Clark Expedition Bicentennial nickel with a P mint mark. You described it as having gray dots, a beautiful appearance, and uncirculated fine condition. And unlike the earlier Monticello nickels, this one marks a major design change in American coinage, one that collectors still remember today. 2004 was a fascinating moment in the United States. America was commemorating the bicentennial of the Louisiana Purchase and the Lewis and Clark Expedition, the historic journey that explored the newly acquired territory after the United States purchased the land from France in 1803. Congress authorized temporary nickel design changes through 2005 specifically to honor these events. The U.S. Mint called this the Westward Journey Nickel Series, and it was the first major nickel design change in more than 6 decades. Your P Mint mark tells us this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The obverse still carries Thomas Jefferson with the inscriptions "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date 2004. But turn the coin over, and this is where the story changes. The first 2004 reverse design was based on the historic Jefferson Peace Medal from 1801. It shows 2 clasped hands symbolizing peace and friendship, along with United States of America, Louisiana Purchase, 1803, a pluribus unum, and 5 cents. This particular piece metal design was only used during part of 2004 before the Mint introduced the second westward journey reverse featuring the Lewis and Clark expedition's keelboat. That makes the piece metal nickel an important one-year type within the series. The coin itself is standard copper nickel, containing 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5 grams, measures approximately 21.21 millimeters in diameter, is about 1.95 millimeters thick, and has a plain edge. Philadelphia produced 440,000 examples of the piece metal design, so the date and design alone do not make every example rare. That makes your uncirculated condition especially important to examine. Collectors inspect Jefferson's portrait, the date, the P mint mark, the lettering, the reverse design, and the overall surfaces. On the piece metal reverse, they also pay attention to the sharpness of the clasped hands and surrounding details. Your gray dots may simply be surface coloration or toning. They should not automatically be treated as an error or variety. And this is where the story gets even more interesting. In today's collector market, this 2004 Lewis and Clark Expedition bicentennial 5-cent coin can be valued at approximately $6,500, an incredible difference from its original face value of just 5 cents. Its age, historical significance, condition, originality, and collector demand can all influence its value. If you find one, don't spend it, don't clean it, and protect its original surfaces. There is real auction activity behind high-grade examples. Records a $4,230 auction result for a 2004 piece metal nickel graded as 68th. That doesn't mean every uncirculated example is worth thousands, but it shows why condition can matter enormously when collectors compare exceptional specimens. So if you discover this coin in your collection, slow down. Do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Original surfaces matter. Handle it carefully by the edges. Protect it from scratches and chemicals. And if the coin truly appears exceptionally preserved, professional grading may be worthwhile. 6 coins have already brought us through decades of Jefferson nickel history, but this one reminds us that even a modern 5-cent coin can carry an important piece of America's past. Check your old change, rolls, and collections carefully. The coin you almost overlook could be the one that deserves a second look. Comment Rare Coins Hunter if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are.